Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to Skyblock 1.16. I hope you guys are having a good day. It's time! The day has arrived. We are off to the Nether Fortress to start on our Nether Fortress mob farm. I'm going to bring all of these lava buckets with me, basically everything I can carry coming with me here in the shulker box, and we've got a little bit of work to do today, but I think it's going to be a good one. The first thing we need to do, of course, is dispatch all of the enemies that have generated inside the Nether Fortress already, which, thanks to the fact that I was farming for blaze powder in the previous episodes, is kind of a lot of them. There are a bunch of blazes, and it looks like a couple of wither skeletons in here as well, and I'm a little bit scared. I'm a little bit scared of quite how much stuff is down there right now. So I'm just going to hop up into here, make sure we slab this stuff off, and then maybe I'll try taking pot shots at it from above with the bow until I feel a little bit safer. And that's the blazes taken care of. The last customer here is that one zombie pigman. Wow, how good is this bow? Okay, power 4. That probably explains it. All right, well, now we have the rest of this stuff all cleared out. What I need to do is probably spawn-proof this platform a little bit. Now, blazes and zombie piglins can spawn in high light levels, but if we place torches every couple of blocks here, that should be enough to give us a little bit of room to work with, a little bit of quiet while we prepare the rest of the farm. So as with any mob farm that relies on natural spawning mechanics instead of, a mob spawner block, we actually need to make sure we know what the mechanics are, first of all. And Nether Fortress spawning mechanics are a little bit odd. They rely on two separate hitboxes that the average Nether Fortress has. There is one that goes around the individual pieces of the Nether Fortress structure, the corridors and bridges and so forth that make up a Nether Fortress, and pretty much any block inside that area will spawn a Nether Fortress mob, regardless of what the block is. As long as it is spawnable, it can spawn Nether Fortress mobs. There is also a second bounding box that goes around the entirety of a Nether Fortress structure, basically as far as the outer dimensions of the fortress are, aside from the supporting structure. So, like, if the legs of the Nether Fortress go down into lava, there's a certain height at which that hitbox disappears. So since this Nether Fortress tower was created manually for the Skyblock map and was not a naturally generated Nether Fortress, they've applied a hitbox. The map makers applied a hitbox to this area to cover a certain amount of Nether Fortress. However, it is the second type of hitbox, the one that covers the outer area of a Nether Fortress, and inside that area, you will only get Nether Fortress mob spawns on full blocks of nether brick. This is a problem I ran into on my previous Skyblock playthrough, where even double slabs of nether brick would not count as a spawnable space for fortress mobs. It has to be on top of the nether brick in order for the fortress mobs to spawn. And so that presents us with the issue of having to acquire enough nether bricks, not nether brick slabs, but nether bricks, to be able to spawn mobs on each of these platforms, because I can't see the hitbox right now, but I'm fairly certain it extends outward from the tower by at least 8 blocks in every direction, which is going to form the basis of how we're going to design this farm. As of right now, I only have enough buckets of lava to cover 2 of the 4 sides, and so what I'm planning on doing is extending out platforms from 2 sides of the Nether Fortress, the one that we've already got here, and this side here, because that leads away from most of the other farms I've built in the area. It's a little bit towards the Ghast farm that's out there. You can kind of see it as I turn my head just above the pickaxe there on the right-hand side of your screen, but outside of that, the Magma Cube farm is over there, and the Zombie Pigman farm is over there, and that is the one that's going to be taking up the mob cap really, really quickly, so I want to make sure that we can avoid standing too close to that if possible, and avoid stuff spawning on that side if we can. So we're going to be expanding these platforms out so they are 8 blocks wide on each side, which I think is the overall dimensions of the fortress. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, okay, so 8 blocks on each side, and each platform here is going to be 8 blocks wide. It's going to be separated out by areas that the mobs can drop down through, and then they're going to fall into a tray of lava. This is going to be us taking advantage of new mechanics in Minecraft 1.16, which allow mobs that are not affected by lava, that don't get damaged by lava, to still be moved by a lava flow, which is going to be a slow way of delivering them to the kill area for the player, but is going to ultimately work out better for us in the long run, and is going to be much less complicated than approaches I've taken in the past involving slime block flying machines. The farm might be a little bit slower, but it is still going to function really well. So we could take a variety of different approaches to designing this farm, but I think what we're going to do is follow the same sort of idea as the hostile mob spawner we built in the beginning of this series. So we're going to rely on mob pathfinding to trick them into falling down between two trapdoors, and that's going to have them fall down to an area below here where we'll be standing waiting for them to arrive, and they'll fall into trays of lava that are going to flow towards the center of this tower and deposit them in a killing area for the player. So what we're actually going to do is take out the first 2 rows of nether brick here. We are going to lose a little bit of that to the void, but that's not a huge problem, as I'll explain shortly. And once we've got rid of this, we're going to place trapdoors between these platforms here and on this side here. And so with the trapdoors arranged like this, there is a large enough gap that basically every mob that's going to spawn up here is going to be able to fall down here. This includes magma cubes, although I'm not entirely certain how good this farm is going to be for magma cube output. They tend to move a little bit unpredictably. If we get any, then that's good, but that is, of course, not the basis that we are operating this farm, because we've got a magma cube farm over there that will handle basically everything else. We're going to have 2 block wide platforms, and we're going to do the same thing with the trapdoors 2 blocks apart from each other, like so. So we're going to have a bunch of trapdoors on this platform here as well. Break out those nether brick blocks and place another row of trapdoors, and this is going to provide a second spawning platform. We're going to do 3 of these on each side, basically. So we're going to have effectively 3 areas in which these mobs can walk off the platform and fall down into a tray of lava. The reason we don't do more than that is because lava is going to flow for 8 blocks before it stops. So we want to make sure that each of the mobs that will fall down through here is going to be able to be caught in the lava flow and carried towards the killing area. So in the hope that nothing's going to spawn in the meantime, we're going to spam these platforms with torches, but what we have here is 3 individual platforms, and there's only going to be trapdoors on this side of the back platform, because further back than that, they're not going to be able to fall down into the lava tray. So why am I being so cavalier with all of these nether bricks? Why am I letting all of these precious resources fall into the void? Well, to answer that, we're going to head back over to our zombie piglin farm, and more importantly, the piglin bartering station in front of them, because as you guys may have seen in previous episodes, these piglins will trade us nether brick, and with that we can make nether brick blocks. So enough bartering with these piglins will allow us to get a near limitless supply of nether brick that we can use to expand those platforms if we want to. Meanwhile, back at the fortress, we are going to close off each of these sides. I'm going to leave this one open for now so that I can work on building out the platforms, but we're going to close this whole area off so that mobs won't be able to see us from the outside, and that's also why I want to make a box around the outside of the farm, maybe out of glass, so that we can see the mobs spawning, but the mobs won't be able to look out and aggro on us, because as we know, blazes cause issues a lot of the time with their movement. The center of the fortress is going to be our own to do with what we want, and I think the best way of doing this is going to be to dig straight down through the center of the fortress and grow some twisting vines back up so that we have effectively an elevator that we can use anytime we want to. And I have a feeling that I can place twisting vines, on basically any block I like. So it's going to be nice and easy just to plant some twisting vines at the bottom of here, grow them back up with bone meal, and then we'll be able to use that effectively as a rope ladder. So right now, where we are at Y59, we want to be 23 or 24 blocks below that. So I'm going to dig down until I'm at about Y35, and I think that's where we're going to start building up the trays of lava and the killing mechanism for these mobs. Alright, we're now down at Y35, and we can dig out the rest of this floor of the tower 2 blocks high, basically. We want to make sure that we have a spawn-free area inside of here, so for now we're probably going to be converting a few of these nether bricks into nether brick slabs, so we can actually be at Y34.5 and slab over this entire area so we don't get any mob spawns. That's also going to allow us to build the killing mechanism in a slightly more convenient way so that we don't end up aggroing any of the mobs that are waiting to be killed in the mechanism. But where we're standing right now, we should actually start to see spawns on the platforms above when they are not spammed by torches. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a couple of blazes drift down here anyway, because once again, blazes are a little bit difficult to handle, and the light levels they can spawn in are higher than other mobs. So if we get the occasional zombie pigman dropping down from here as well, again, would not be entirely surprised. So with this area all slabbed off, I can bone meal the twisting vines all the way upwards, and that gives us a nice easy ladder up and down here. We've got a torch down here so we can light up, see what we're doing, and I think on this side here and on that side there is where we're going to be seeing the majority of our killing mechanism built up for today. And then in future, once I've been able to fight the dragon a few more times and got enough lava for the other 2 sides, we can turn this into a really productive mob farm. On the bottom floor here, we're going to have the chest on the corner as our output chest. Could be widened to a double chest, and you could have the outputs go in a different direction, but what I'm going to do is attach a bunch of hoppers to this, and we're going to lay out the hoppers alongside this area of the nether brick. Basically, all of the mobs that end up coming into this mechanism are going to end up here. And along the next side, we're going to do the same thing with the hoppers finally leading into this chest. So basically, any mob drops that end up on either row of these hoppers is going to end up in the same chest here. On the opposite corner, you might want to do a separate one just for, so the things don't get backlogged in here, because eventually this is going to generate a whole lot of mobs. Now, we're going to lay down the shulker box here, remembering that, of course, if you put a shulker box anywhere, it can potentially be a spawnable block, so I've put it sideways up here in the meantime so I can grab the materials we're going to use to build out the platforms, and I've just grabbed a bunch of junky materials that I don't need to worry too much about. All of this chiseled stone brick that I've traded from stonemasons is going to be perfectly fine to use, and we're going to use a little bit of black stone at the back here just for decorative purposes, I guess. We're going to lay that along the back here. We're actually going to make this section 2 blocks high so that anything that comes down off the lava chute down here is going to drop down into a pit that it cannot escape from. Blazes will still be able to rise up from here, but hopefully they should not aggro on the player, which is the only behavior that actually makes them fly up into the air. We're going to bring the blackstone up 1 block to either side, and even actually add a slab on top of that, because we've got to make sure that these are spawn proof as well. Don't want any zombie pigmen spawning down here and taking up the mob cap. From each of these, we're going to go 8 blocks back, basically the entire length that the lava flow here can flow from a single source block, and we're going to make these platforms here 8 blocks deep as well. In fact, looking at it with the platforms above, we're actually going to be seeing a couple of mobs on that back platform drop down onto the wall here, so what I might actually do is extend this out by a couple more blocks. The reason we can do this, of course, is that once lava flows downhill, it's still going to flow to its maximum length on this next section here. So maybe we'll bring this up by 1 block there. Once again, add the slab wall around the outside, and then we should have a space that is fully contained and ready to receive mobs. Okay, I've deposited a bunch of the materials back into the shulker box so I can make room for the 8 buckets of lava we'll need to place at the back of this platform. And if my calculations are correct, we should just need to place 1 lava source in each area, and it'll flow right to the edge of that platform and then stop. So if we place 8 lava sources side by side here, we should end up with this entire platform forming a lava flow that will just carry mobs down into it. And I've even got a potion of fire resistance from the piglin farm so that we can test that with a player. And this is the point where you've got to be extra careful that you've lit up the platforms above, because if anything does end up falling down here, it could potentially throw me off into the lava. But instead, what we're going to do is splash myself with a bit of fire resist. Doesn't matter that we didn't get the full 3 minutes there, because if we stand in the lava, you'll notice that it's very, very slow, especially for players. Mobs are going to be affected by the same sort of rate of speed as well, but we should just end up flowing down over the platform and being carried in towards the central area. And of course, the mobs are going to be dropping from all 3 of these platforms. Oh gosh, I do hear a magma cube somewhere, so that is something to be concerned about. But yes, you should find that each of the platforms here is going to spawn mobs, and then mobs will drop a little bit further forward in this farm anyway, so you'll start to see them actually make their way down here pretty quickly. Looks like we got a spot here where a magma cube just went ahead and spawned anyway. Not to worry, I should be able to take out some of these medium-sized magma cubes with the bow, and then I'll get all the way to the top here, and yeah, there we go. We can take out the rest with a sword. That's unfortunate, but again, I think I just didn't light this area up adequately enough. Or maybe magma cubes can spawn in any light level. I forget what the conditions are for those, but either way, nothing much to worry about once this one gets out of my ladder. Should be all good to go there. With the glass that I brought with me, all this glass once again traded from my librarian villagers, I'm going to outline these platforms just to make sure that nothing ends up going off the side of these platforms, pathfinding diagonally or anything, so that it doesn't end up on the walls of the lava tray below and should just fall down straight into the lava. And as long as the mobs don't see the player, their pathfinding probably won't take them onto the edges of those platforms. The blazes won't end up flying upwards. We are going to take the roof off this thing and make the entire thing 3 blocks high so that we can get wither skeletons as well. And from what I understand, ghasts won't spawn inside the hitbox of a nether fortress, so we should be okay avoiding ghast spawns that way as well. But I'm going to go and bring up enough glass that I can finish off this perimeter wall, and then we should be able to take the torches out, and we should start to see some mobs spawning up here while we are down below. Okay, I think it's time for the moment of truth. No time like the present. Let's test this farm. Let's take the torches out of here, and I'm probably going to block off this wall so we don't potentially draw aggro from these mobs in the meantime, and hopefully they should just start to fall down into the body of the farm. I'll remove the torches from inside of here as well, or maybe just honestly block this off with nether bricks, so hopefully that ends up being a nice, contained area. We'll maybe take out some of these torches a little bit later, but now if I head on down to the center of here and we'll activate the replay mod, we should start to see some mobs spawning up there. One last thing I'm going to do is lay in a row of slabs over the top here, and that's going to make sure that nothing inside the farm can see us. It will also mean that we could potentially take out some of the blocks down here, replace these with non-spawnable blocks like leaves or glass or something, and that will make it a little bit easier for us to get in here and attack some of the stuff that is falling into the farm. But we can already hear that there are blazes falling down here, so that seems to be working, and I wonder what the replay mod is showing us. Looks like we have a couple of spawns actually coming from some of the side platforms as well, but yep, I'm hearing a couple of skeletons dying. We've already got a couple of blazes coming down. Hopefully we should start to see some wither skeletons in here as well. So the thing about these blazes is they are going to be able to change their momentum in midair and potentially fall outside the sides of that lava tray. So what I'm thinking we will end up doing is placing a bunch more glass around the outside or some other kind of barrier that prevents them from drifting from one side to another. But in this case, we are getting plenty of blazes falling into the system now, and I expect a couple of wither skeletons will be on the way. If they've spawned towards the back of the farm, of course, it might take them a second or two to get here in the lava, but they shouldn't despawn in the process. We got one wither skeleton there, and it looks like we've already got a decent amount of drops starting to pile up in this chest. There we go, plenty of blazes, a couple more wither skeletons coming down here now as well. This is looking pretty good as far as I'm concerned. We wanted to get the lava out of the way, of course, so that we don't end up losing any drops to the lava, which is why I haven't got another lava stream here that could potentially direct the mobs towards a more central area of hoppers. This amount of hoppers seems a little bit excessive, but it is just going to make sure that we get all of these drops without any fuss. So while, of course, this farm does seem a little bit slower, it's going to be much faster once we have all four sides of the farm active. We should be able to do 2 today, and we'll be able to get a few more done once I've fought the dragon a few more times for those lava buckets. We're getting a few with the skeletons through here now, which is great. We are going to get a couple of zombie pigmen mad at us, but that's not going to be a huge deal. And yeah, looks like we're already getting plenty of bones and coal, which is 2 of the things that we want from the wither skeletons. The wither skeleton skulls should not be far behind. And I've got looting 3 on this sword, so hopefully we'll see those coming through pretty quickly. Once all 4 sides of the farm are done, it's going to be pretty quick. Alright, the good news is we've already got our first wither skeleton skull. That did not take very long at all, and in the fullness of time we might end up filtering out some of these items into a more dedicated storage system so that we can take out all of the stone and gold swords and all of that junk and just have the stuff that we really want, like the coal and like the wither skeleton skulls, the blaze rods, that kind of stuff. But this is all working pretty well so far. Unfortunately, having started this next platform, I realized that if I step out onto here, from below right now, the blazes can actually see me and aggro on me. So I'm going to have to head up to the main platform and place a bunch of torches once again to make sure that we can get rid of those blazes and I don't end up with more issues like that. The other problem right now is that magma cubes are still freely spawning inside of here and causing a bit of a commotion. So I'm probably going to have to fly my way out of here until I can potentially deal with them. Maybe we'll despawn them if we can get away at a distance, and we'll just lay a bunch of slabs in there to make sure the magma cubes don't bother us again. In the near future, I also need to sort out what my preferred way in and out of this place is going to be. We could probably dress up the fortress however we wanted, as long as we can remove any spawnable spaces, but yeah, this area here definitely going to have to get slabbed off, which will also mean we can take the torches out of here, which is honestly preferable for the long term anyway. But having dealt with the blazes, which were hovering around in here and further down, I think we can now come through and open up a couple of these trapdoors and light up these platforms. I do see a couple of zombie pigmen around the outside there, but that isn't too much of a problem because once we start attacking a couple of them, as long as we don't one-shot them while they're in the killing mechanism, they will aggro on me, and that should lead to them walking into the area with the hoppers of their own accord. Right now, as far as I can tell, they're the only mobs that seem to be able to get up around the outside, probably because of their preference to bob up and down inside of the lava streams. But one way you could get around that, of course, is is to make sure that the area around the outside there is not solid blocks, because typically the way these pathfinding mob farms work is that the mobs are trying to pathfind towards solid blocks at all times. So if you remove any solid blocks from the outside, then that means you won't end up worrying about those. We may also have a non-slabbed block down there, because it looks like a piglin has somehow spawned, and I don't think they normally spawn in nether fortresses, so that may be something else we have to deal with. And with precious few interruptions, thank goodness, I now have the second lava tray ready to be filled up with lava. So we're going to place these last 8 buckets, head up there and finish off the spawning platforms, and then we should have 2 sections of what will ultimately be a pretty functional farm. I've seen a few more mobs come into the system since the last clip, and we've got plenty of opportunity to get ourselves a bunch of wither skulls from this. I think once all sides of the farm are fully operational, we'll see a lot more drops coming in, and it's going to be relatively comparable to the slime block version, but with, once again, so much less effort required. So let's take out this block here that I've been using to get up there. Let's take out that block, and let's put in a row of slabs that are just going to make sure nothing comes out, including these smaller magma cubes, which occasionally make their way down here. Look at this, though. Aside from a couple of bits of material, we got a couple of gold ingots in there from pigmen, plenty of coal already, over a stack of coal, plenty of bones as well, and this is going to be a pretty productive farm, all things considered. Now, once again, we need to make sure we're making this next set of platforms out of nether brick full blocks. That's the only thing that will get these fortress mobs to spawn, but this time around I'm not going to worry about lighting them up. We're going to leave the entire thing dark so that mobs will spawn here pretty much as soon as I head back down into the farm. I'm going to try my best to wall it off with glass, as I've done with the cell next door, and I think we're going to have to go and get a ton more glass just to make sure that the rest of this is walled off safely and we don't get any blazes escaping towards the outside of the farm. But in the long run, that's really not going to be much in the way of material cost compared to how useful this farm is going to be. And really, at this point, aside from the fact that we're getting easy coal and blaze rods, I think the main purpose of this farm is going to be to get wither skulls so that we can summon the wither. And while that might seem like a scary prospect in the Skyblock world, we're probably going to do it the safe way. That's just going to involve spawning it underneath the end return portal so that we can get hold of the wither's drops. Not only for a beacon, but supposedly the wither is the thing that drops ancient debris in this version of the Skyblock map, and so we're going to find that we can potentially upgrade to netherite once we're in a position to fight the wither repeatedly. That is going to take a little bit of time, of course, and I'm not certain that the drop rate for ancient debris is 100%. I think it might be a little bit lower, but regardless of that, if it's the only way to get ancient debris, then we are going to give it our best shot, and that's going to require spawning the wither multiple times in order to make sure we get enough for a full upgrade to netherite. Looks like I need to go and trade a little bit more glass, but of course we need a lot more glass anyway, as I just said, so it's just going to be time to test out this side of the farm for now. We're going to block this area off from the center of the fortress once again, but just like the section next door, it should all run pretty smoothly, and I'm going to take out the torches from this section here as well. Hopefully we should start to see a lot more mobs piling into that chamber we've got down below. So once again, I'm going to be running the replay mod in the background so we can keep track of spawns, and I'm already hearing wither skeletons out here as well. Oh, we have a visitor down here. Looks like a zombie pigman was able to spawn, possibly even on the block where we've got this twisting vine rising upwards. So I wonder if maybe a good way of sorting that out would be to use weeping vines instead and just have them stop down here above a slab rather than having the weeping vines coming up from a single block. But I'm just going to quickly take care of him. Yeah, Punch Bow should deal with that. I think it's Punch Bow anyway. Yeah, it is. And then after that, oh, we've got a blaze out there in the void. Yeah, once again, having to make sure that the blazes aren't going to aggro on me from outside of the farm, so we'll put up some walls. But yes, I can already see a few wither skeletons starting to make their way in here, and just from the fact that we can go belly up to these hoppers and grab a couple of mob drops from these guys, when I turn around, I will start to find that there have been other things dropping down here. So once we have all 4 sides of the farm, once again, this should be a very, very functional farm. It should be nice and easy to get mobs piling up in here after a while. And all I need to do is go away from the keyboard for a couple of minutes, come back, and I should have a whole bunch of mobs waiting for me in the kill zone. Yep, all I've had to do is stand here for a minute, and we already have a bunch of blazes, a bunch of wither skeletons, and some zombie pigmen in here as well. So this isn't going to be quite as effective as our gold farm, but we are still going to benefit from the occasional zombie pigman drops, and we have rows upon rows of wither skeletons waiting to drop on in here, as well as, yes, the occasional target to hit outside of the farm. But this is looking really promising. I would not be surprised if we have one or two more wither skeleton skulls waiting for us in the chest. And once the farm is fully enclosed, it's going to be nice and efficient. Yep, that right there is our third wither skeleton skull. Fantastic. So we have a pretty effective farm here, it looks like, and while it's not going to be the most efficient thing you've ever seen, it is certainly suiting our purposes here in Skyblock. So I think that's probably where we're going to call it for this episode. I'm probably going to have to go away and fight the dragon a few more times, because I really want to see, once we get maybe 10 or so more lava buckets, we should be able to run this farm at full tilt, and it's going to be pretty fantastic. So I'm going to head away and take care of that. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching this Skyblock episode. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.